There are moments when doing nothing feels worse than any danger. I learned that truth on a September evening in 1885, riding home through Arizona territory with nothing on my mind but supper and rest. What I found instead was a woman bound and bleeding, 3 armed men, and a choice that would change 2 lives forever. This isn't a tale about heroes or grand gestures. It's about what happens when you can't walk away from what's right and what follows when the person you saved decides, against all reason, to stay. Caleb Stone heard the scream before he saw the men. 6 miles from town, late sun burning low, his bay gelding's snorted ears pinned back, voices carried over the scrub. He pulled the Winchester from its boot and nudged the horse forward. 3 men, 1 woman on the ground, wrists bound with hemp rope, blood on the fibers. Caleb fired twice. Dirt geysered 10 feet from the nearest man's boots. They scattered like quail. The woman didn't move, just lay there, chest heaving, eyes tracking him through matted black hair. He dismounted slow, boots on hardpan, knelt 3 feet away, uncorked his canteen, set it between them, waited. Her hand shot out. Drank like she'd been 3 days dry. Likely had been. She lowered the canteen, met his eyes black, flat, deciding if he was another threat. "Can't leave you here," he said, not asking. "If you're reading this from somewhere the desert wind still blows or the stars come out clean at night, I'd be grateful to know it. Sometimes a story travels further than we expect, and it's a comfort to know it found good company along the way." Full dark by the time they reached Stone Creek Ranch. Adobe house squatted low against the scrub. Barn leaned left like a drunk. Windmill squeaked every 3rd rotation, metal on metal. Needed grease. Caleb dismounted, helped her down. She swayed, caught herself on the saddle horn, her legs barely held. Inside. He struck a match, lit the coal oil lamp. Chimney smoked, needed trimming. Yellow light crawled across the rough walls. He gestured to a door and back. "That room's yours. Door don't have a lock on it. You can leave any time." She stood in the doorway, stared at the iron bedstead. Quilt faded to no particular color. He set the lamp on the table, backed toward the door. "Water's in the basin, rags in the drawer." He left, pulled the door shut behind him. She waited, counted to 300, moved to the window, pulled back the flour sack curtain an inch. He sat on the porch, Winchester across his knees, facing away from the house, not watching her, watching the dark beyond. She turned to the basin, water cold, pulled off the torn shirt, some man's, not hers, reeked of sweat and fear, dipped the rag, touched it to her wrists. The rope burns wept clear fluid. She hissed through her teeth. Blue tin on the shelf. Lard salve. Smelled like rendered fat and something bitter, maybe yarrow. Stung worse than the water. She wrapped her wrists in strips of flour sack cloth. Pillsbury's Best stamped in faded blue letters. Cornbread on the table, wrapped in cheesecloth. She ate standing up. Crumbs fell on the planks, eyes on the door, outside. Porch boards creaked when he shifted weight. She crossed to the front door, gripped the handle, cold iron, turned it slow, unlatched, opened 1 inch. Night air rushed in, creosote and dust. She could walk out right now. Nothing stopping her. His back stayed turned. She closed the door. Soft click. On the porch. Caleb's shoulders dropped half an inch. He exhaled through his nose, turned the harmonica over in his hands. Didn't play it, just held it. Inside, she moved back to the window, watched him sit there in the dark, holding that harmonica like other men hold rosary beads. And for the first time in 3 days, she wondered what kind of man guards a stranger's freedom instead of her body. What was he protecting her from? Or was he protecting her from himself? First morning, day 2. Caleb woke on the porch, neck stiff, rifle across his lap. Sun not yet up. He stood, worked his shoulders, crossed to the barn. The bay needed hay, water, grain if he was going to ride fence today. Caleb forked alfalfa into the trough, checked the hooves, no stones, fetched the bucket from the well, cranked the windmill handle. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Water spilled cold and clear. The horse drank deep. Behind him, the house stayed quiet. He didn't look back. Spent the morning mending tack. Bridle leather dark with old sweat. Needed saddle soap. He worked it in with his thumbs. The leather softened. Smelled like animals and work. Good smells. Noon came. He ate cornbread standing in the barn, drank from the well bucket, wiped his mouth. Still no sound from the house. He hauled fence wire to the north pasture. 3 posts down, coyotes had been digging underneath. He drove new stakes with the post maul. Swing, crack, swing, crack. Sweat ran down his spine. September heat still had teeth in the afternoon. Strung the wire, barbed, Glidden's patent. Twisted the ends tight with pliers, tested it, held firm. Looked up. She stood at the window, just her face, watching. He went back to work. Day 3, same pattern. He woke on the porch, fed the horse, fixed things. The latch on the smokehouse, the hinge on the chicken coop gate, the loose board on the porch step that had been squeaking for 2 years. Kept his distance from the house. Mid-afternoon, hooves on the road. Caleb straightened. Hand moved to the Winchester leaning against the barn wall. Traveling salesman, wagon loaded with tinware and patent medicines. The man grinned. Gold tooth catching sun. Afternoon, friend. Got coffee. Tobacco miracle elixir cures what ails. Caleb stepped into the road, blocked the path to the house. Not buying today. The salesman's grin faded. Eyes flicked past Caleb to the adobe. Back. Well now, if you change your mind. Won't. The salesman clucked his horse. Moved on. Caleb watched until the wagon disappeared over the rise. Stood there another 5 minutes, making certain, when he turned back, she was on the point. First time she'd come outside. She wore the torn shirt still, bare feet, hair loose down her back. She looked at him. He looked back. 20 yards between them. Neither spoke. She went inside. Door closed soft. Caleb exhaled. Hadn't realized he'd been holding it. Day 4. Morning. Dawn broke pink over the eastern mountains. Caleb pumped water into the galvanized can, carried it to the vegetable plot. Beans on poles. Squash sprawling across the dirt. Half the plants were dying. Not enough rain this year. Not enough care since Margaret died. He poured water into the furrows. Watched it soak in. Dark earth drinking. Footsteps behind him. He didn't turn, just kept pouring. She stopped 10 feet back. He could feel her there, watching, waited. Why? One word. Her voice rough from days of not speaking. He set down the can, wiped his hands on his pants. Still didn't turn. Couldn't leave you there. Silence. Now, when I am well, I can go. Now he turned and met her eyes. Black, direct, mission taught. He'd guess her English was too good for someone who'd grown up only speaking Apache. When you're well, when you want, you're free. Always have been. She tilted her head, studying him like he was a puzzle with missing pieces. What is your name? Caleb Stone, he nodded once. Turned. Walked toward what looked like the edge of his property where the land flattened before dropping into the arroyo. Maybe 200 yards. Caleb's chest tightened. She's testing it. Seeing if I'll stop her, he forced himself still, stood there, hands at his sides. She reached the rise, stopped, looked out at the desert beyond. Scrub brush and cactus, and nothing for miles. Stood there 5 minutes, maybe more. Sun climbing, heat building. Then she turned around, walked back. Caleb was on the porch when she passed, whittling. Cedar stick half carved into nothing in particular. He didn't look up, just kept the blade moving. Shavings curled onto the boards. She went inside. He breathed again. Evening. Sun dropping. Sky going purple. Caleb crossed to the well. She came out. Stood on the porch. He gestured. Water's good. Help yourself anytime. She nodded. He pointed to the root cellar doors, flat against the ground near the house. Potatoes down there, onions. Take what you need. Another nod. He started toward the barn. Her voice stopped him. Your wife? He turned. She was looking at the grave. Wooden cross 50 yards out. Simple pine. M. Stone 1882 carved deep. Yes, ma'am. I am sorry. He swallowed, mouth dry. Me too. Long silence. Cicadas starting up in the mesquite. Then she went back inside. Caleb stood there as the stars came out, turned the harmonica over in his hands. Margaret had given it to him. Their first Christmas, before the baby, before everything went to hell. He put it to his lips. Didn't blow, just held it there. Went to the barn, found the trunk in the corner, his wife's things. Most he'd given away after the funeral. Couldn't bear to look at them. But one dress remained. Calico, indigo blue with small flowers. Simple. She'd worn it Sundays to the little church in town before it burned down. He folded it careful, carried it to the house, set it on the porch rail, knocked once on the door, leaving something for you out here. Walked away before she could answer, before he could think too hard about what it meant giving away the last piece of Margaret he had left. Morning, day 5. The dress was gone from the rail. Caleb was in the barn, mucking stalls, pitchfork and sweat and the smell of hay and horse manure. He heard the house door open. Footsteps. He kept working. Didn't look. She appeared in the barn entrance, backlit by sun, holding the dress up to the light. The blue looked almost new in the morning. She ran her fingers over the fabric. The small floral print, faded where the armpits had been. She looked at him. He looked back. Might need taking in, he said. Or letting out. I don't rightly know. Why did you give this to me? He leaned on the pitchfork. Honest question. Deserved an honest answer. Because you shouldn't have to wear some dead man's shirt. She folded the dress against her chest. Careful. Like it mattered. Thank you. 2 words, but the way she said them carried weight. She turned to leave, stopped, looked back over her shoulder. Caleb Stone. Yes, ma'am. My name is Ayanna. She walked out before he could respond. He stood there in the barn, pitchfork in his hands, heart doing something strange behind his ribs. Ayanna. He said it out loud, just once, to hear how it sounded in the empty barn. The bay gelding snorted, tossed his head. Caleb went back to work, but his hands were shaking. That night, he sat on the porch. She didn't come out, but lamplight glowed through the window. He could see her shadow moving, smoothing the dress out on the bed, holding it up again. He played one note on the harmonica, just one. Let it hang in the desert air. Inside, her shadow went still. He played another note. Different pitch, almost the start of something. Her shadow moved to the window, stood there listening. He stopped playing. Silence rushed back in, coyotes yipping in the distance, wind in the dry grass. After a long moment, her shadow moved away from the window. But it was different now, not the pacing of a trapped animal, something else, something that looked almost like settling in. Caleb set the harmonica on the bench beside him, tipped his head back, looked at the stars spread thick overhead. For the first time in 3 years, the loneliness felt less like drowning and more like just being alone. Then he heard it. Hoofbeats. Distant. Coming from the east. More than one horse. Moving fast in the dark. Week 2, day 10. She began with small tasks. Came out at dawn while he was in the barn. Scattered cracked corn from the burlap sack for the chickens. They clucked and pecked around her bare feet. She moved slow, careful, her wrists still wrapped in clean cloth. The rope burns hadn't fully healed. But she could use her hands now if she was gentle. Caleb came out of the barn, stopped, watched her feed his chickens like she'd been doing it for years. She glanced at him, kept working. He nodded once, went to fix the coral fence. By noon, she'd gathered 6 eggs, carried them in her apron, still the torn man's shirt. But cleaner now. She washed it in the basin. Didn't break a single egg walking back to the house. Caleb mended fence posts, drove stakes into the hard ground. The post maul rang out with each strike. Sweat soaked through his shirt, stuck to his back. She came out with pliers, started fixing the loose wire on the north section, where the coyotes had tried digging under again. Didn't ask permission. Just did it. They worked 20 feet apart. No words. But when he swung the maul, she pulled wire tight. When he moved to the next post, she followed. The rhythm matched without planning. Like 2 people who'd worked together before, though they hadn't. Midday heat pressed down. Caleb went to the house, came back with the tin coffee pot, 2 cups, blue enamel, rims chipped white, poured coffee, handed her one, Chatham rose between them. She took it. Their fingers didn't touch. They drank standing there in the sun. Coffee black and bitter. He'd roasted Arbuckle's green beans in the skillet last night. Burned a few. You could taste it. She didn't complain, just drank. He went back to work. She did too. Day 11. Same pattern. She fed chickens at dawn. He hauled water from the well. The windmill squeaked with each turn of the handle. Needed grease still, he kept meaning to do it. Kept forgetting. She gathered eggs. He mended the leather tack that had been waiting 2 months. Bridle straps cracking from the dry air. He worked saddle soap in with his thumbs until the leather went soft and dark. Coffee at noon. They stood in the shade of the barn, drank without talking. Dust devils spun across the empty land beyond his property. The sky went white with heat. Day 12. The bay gelding spooked. Caleb was leading him to water. The horse stopped, ears flat, nostrils flared, snake in the grass, diamondback, thick as a man's wrist. The gelding reared, hooves pawing air. Caleb grabbed for the bridle, missed. Ayana got there first, hand on the horse's neck, making sounds, not English, not Spanish, something older, Apache words, soft and steady. The gelding's front hooves hit ground. He blew hard through his nostrils, shook his head, but he settled. Stood still while she stroked his shoulder. The snake slithered away into the rocks. Caleb stared at her. "How'd you do that?" She kept her hand on the horse. He was afraid. I told him there was nothing to fear now. He understood you. Animals always understand. She looked at the gelding. They hear the voice under the words. She walked away. Left Caleb standing there with his mouth half open and his heart doing that strange thing again. Day 13. Sky went gray. Clouds rolled in from the west. No rain fell, but the air changed. Smelled like water that wouldn't come. The heat broke. For the first time in weeks, breathing didn't feel like inhaling sand. Caleb worked the garden, beans climbing their poles barely, squash leaves yellow and curling, not enough water. Never enough. He poured what he could spare from the well. The furrows drank it down and stayed thirsty. Ayana appeared with his knife, the one from his belt. She'd taken it from the porch rail where he'd left it this morning. She crossed to the big barrel cactus at the property edge. Waxy green skin, yellow spines, long as fingers. She cut careful, peeled back the outer layer. Inside, the flesh wept clear moisture. Brought him a piece, held it out. If the well runs dry. He took it, looked at the wet pulp in his palm, put it in his mouth. Tasted like dirt and minerals and life. You know the desert. I was born in it. She pointed south with the knife. 3 days' ride, maybe 4. You have people there. Her face went still, closed like a door. No, he didn't push, just ate the cactus. It wasn't good, but it was real, something you could live on if you had to. She went back to the house. He watched her go, noticed she walked different now, less like she was looking for a way out, more like she knew the paths. Day 14. Evening, Caleb sat on the porch. She came out, stood at the rail a moment, then sat, not beside him, 3 feet to his left on the bench. The sun dropped behind the western ridge. Sky went from blue to purple to black. Stars appeared one by one. Venus first, bright and low. Then the others. She looked at the harmonica in his hands. You carry it every night, but you do not play. He turned it over. Silver catching starlight. Belonged to my wife. She is buried there. Not a question. She'd seen him standing at the grave some mornings. Yes, ma'am. You do not play because of her. Music felt too loud. After she died, like it was taking up space she should still have. Desert wind moved through the mesquite. Dry whisper. Nightbirds starting up. Poor wills calling. My grandmother sang, Ayana said, voice quiet. Every morning when she woke, every night before sleep, the soldiers came to our camp, told her to stop singing, said it disturbed the peace. Caleb looked at her, waited. She did not stop. So they cut out her tongue. His hands went tight on the harmonica, knuckles white. The silver bit into his palm. "I'm sorry that happened." She shook her head once. She died 3 days later, but she died singing in her heart. They could not stop that part. Silence, heavier now, the weight of things that couldn't be fixed or undone. "Guess silence can hurt as much as any wound," Caleb said. She met his eyes. "Yes." He lifted the harmonica, put it to his lips, blew one note, C sharp, held it, let it fade into the dark. Her mouth moved, almost a smile, just the corner lifting. He lowered the harmonica, set it on the bench between them. She looked at it, then at him. Neither spoke. Didn't need to. Stars wheeled overhead. Coyotes called from the arroyos. The windmill turned, squeaking its rusty song. Caleb stood. "Good night, Ayana." "Good night." He went to the barn, left her, sitting there in the dark, with the harmonica between them. Inside the barn. He leaned against the wall, pressed his forehead to the rough wood. His hands were shaking again. It had been 3 years since he'd wanted to play music. 3 years since anything felt worth the noise. But tonight, sitting beside her in the dark, listening to her talk about her grandmother who sang even when they cut out her tongue, he wanted to play, wanted to fill the silence with something other than grief, wanted to hear what it sounded like when two people who'd both lost everything tried to make something beautiful from what was left. He pushed off the wall, started back toward the porch, stopped. She was standing now, looking east, body gone rigid. He followed her gaze, dust rising on the horizon, visible even in starlight. Riders, coming fast, and from the way she'd gone still, the way her hands had curled into fists, she knew exactly who they were. Day 18, evening. Ayana stood at the stove, cast iron skillet heating on the fire. She'd mixed cornmeal with water in the wooden bowl. Her hands worked the dough, pressed it flat between her palms, shaped it round. The bandages were off her wrists now, 3 weeks since the rope burns. Pink scars remained, still tender when she gripped things too hard, but she could work. Caleb came in from the smokehouse, venison in his hands, smoked dark red. He set it on the table, drew his knife, cut it into strips, didn't speak, just worked beside her in the small kitchen. She dropped the first round of dough into the hot lard. It hissed, sizzled. Smell filled the room, cornmeal and fat and heat. She turned it with a fork. Golden on one side, let it cook, turned it again. He sliced the venison thin, arranged it on a tin plate, poured water from the pitcher into 2 cups. Well water, cold and clean. By the time she finished, there were 6 rounds of fry bread stacked on a plate. The venison sliced and ready. He'd set the table, 2 plates facing each other, 2 forks, knife for the meat. He'd eaten alone at this table for 3 years. The habit of setting 2 places felt strange, like reaching for something that used to be there and finding it was somehow again. They stood there, neither moving to sit. "Go ahead," he said. She shook her head. "You first. Your food. You earn the first bite." She pulled out a chair, sat. He sat across from her. She reached for the fry bread, tore a piece, ate it. He picked up his fork. They ate without talking, just the sounds of forks on tin, chewing, breathing. Outside, The wind picked up, rattled the window frame. Somewhere a shutter banged loose. He'd have to fix that tomorrow. Halfway through the meal, Caleb set down his fork, looked at her. "This is fine cooking." She nodded, swallowed. "My grandmother made it better." Hard to believe. Almost a smile touched her mouth. Gone quick. She ate another bite. Caleb cut more venison. The meat was tough, needed longer in the smoke, but it filled the bay. That was enough. He chewed slow, watched her across the table. The lamplight caught her face, made shadows in the hollows under her cheekbones. She was too thin still. 3 weeks of regular food hadn't put back what 3 days of captivity had taken. He pushed the plate of fry bread closer to her. She took another piece without being asked. They finished eating. Caleb gathered the plates. She stood to help. "I got it," he said. "I can—" "You cooked. I'll clean." She stepped back, watched him carry the plates to the basin, pour water from the pitcher, scrub with the rag. His hands moved careful around the chipped enamel. Didn't break anything. She crossed to the window, looked out at the dark. Stars starting to show, the moon not yet risen. Caleb Stone. He set down the plate he was washing. Didn't turn. "Yes, ma'am. May I ask you something?" "Go ahead." Long pause. He waited. Hands still in the water. "Your wife, and how did she die?" His hands went still, plate half washed. He set it down careful, dried his hands on his pants, turned to face her. "Childbirth." She turned from the window. "The baby died too. Same night." Silence, heavy as stones. "I rode to town for the doctor," he said. Voice rough like gravel. "Took 3 hours there and back. Pushed the horse too hard, nearly killed him too. By the time we got here—" He stopped, swallowed. She was already gone. Baby never took a breath. Ayanna stepped closer. Not touching. Just closer. "You blame yourself." Not a question. She could see it in the set of his shoulders, the way he couldn't quite meet her eyes when he talked about it. "I should have been faster. Should have had the doctor closer. Should have—" He stopped, shook his head. "Don't matter what I should have done. They're still dead." "Some things cannot be mended," she said quietly. "No matter how hard you try." He looked at her then, really looked, saw something in her face that matched what he carried. Same weight, different shape. "You lost people too." She nodded, crossed to the table, sat. He dried his hands and sat across from her. The dishes could wait. "My mother died birthing my sister," Ayanna said. "The baby died 2 days later. I was 10 years old. I'm sorry. My brother raised me after that. Taught me to ride, to track, to survive." She touched the table, fingers on the rough pine. 3 years ago, he spoke against the treaty, said the government was lying, that the reservation land was poison, no water, no game. He was right, but they did not want to hear it. What happened to him? They took him, said he was causing trouble. I have not seen him since. She met Caleb's eyes. "That is why those men came for me, to make him quiet, to use me as—" She searched for the word. "A bargaining chip." Caleb finished. His jaw went tight. "That's why they had you tied up like livestock." "Yes." He stood, paced to the window, back, hands curling into fists, uncurling. Commissioner Blake, the one who runs things from Tucson, that his doing, I do not know the names, just the men who took me. Well, I know Blake. Caleb stopped pacing, looked at her, and if he's behind this, he won't stop looking for you. I know. You should leave, get somewhere safe. She stood, faced him across the small kitchen. Where is safe? He had no answer for that. She crossed to him, stopped 3 feet away, close as they'd ever been in the house. You are not like them. Caleb Stone. Who? The men who see a person and think, how can I use this? You see me. You ask nothing. That is, she paused. That is rare. His throat went tight. He couldn't speak. Just stood there while she looked at him like he'd done something worth noticing, when all he'd done was act decent. Thank you, she said, for everything. For this, you don't need to. I do. She held his gaze. You gave me my freedom back. The first person who ever did. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words stuck in his chest like stones he couldn't swallow. She turned, went to her room, door closed soft. Caleb stood in the kitchen, alone again, but the loneliness felt different now, less like drowning, more like the space between two people who'd been separate, starting to understand they didn't have to be. Day 19, night. They sat on the porch, the rocking chairs, 2 feet apart now, closer than before but still not touching, sky clear, moon rising fat and silver. Caleb held the harmonica but didn't play, just turned it over in his hands. Ayanna spoke first. You said you should have been faster when your wife needed the doctor. He nodded. Do you think she blamed you? Don't know. She was already. He stopped. Started again. She never opened her eyes after I left, so I don't know. I think she did not blame you. Ayanna looked at the stars. I think if she loved you, she knew you did everything you could. His hands tightened on the harmonica. How can you know that? Because blame requires cruelty, and you are not cruel. He turned to look at her. She met his eyes. The men who took me were cruel, she said. They laughed when I asked for water. When the ropes cut my skin, you heard me scream and you came. You could have ridden past. Most men would have. I'm not most men, I guess. No, you are not. They sat in silence. The night sounds building around them. Crickets, poor wills, the distant yip of coyotes, starting their hunt. Caleb lifted the harmonica, put it to his lips, played. Slow melody, sad but not hopeless. Just remembering, Ayanna closed her eyes, swayed slightly, her shoulders moving with the music. He played until the song ended, lowered the harmonica. She opened her eyes. That was beautiful. Margaret liked it. Used to hum along. I can see why. Ayanna paused. Will you play it again sometime? Yeah, I will. A cool wind came down from the mountains. She shivered, just once, pulled her arms around herself, still wearing the calico dress, but nothing over it. Caleb stood. Wait here. He went inside, came back with his canvas coat, the one he wore riding fence in winter. Smelled like work and sweat and him. Here. She took it. Put it on. Too big. sleeves past her hands, but warm. "Thank you." He sat back down. She pulled the coat tight around her, sat back in her chair. They rocked. Not in unison. His chair moved slower, hers faster. But they were both moving, both there, both choosing to stay on this porch in the dark instead of going inside to separate rooms. Her chair slowed, matched his rhythm. Rock. Pause. Rock. Pause. Their shoulders were maybe 6 inches apart now. Caleb's heart did that strange thing again. Beat too fast, too hard, like it was trying to tell him something his head didn't want to hear yet. He looked at her. She looked straight ahead. But he could see her pulse in her throat. Quick. Fluttering. She was nervous, too. That helped somehow, made him feel less alone in whatever this was becoming. He started to speak, to say something. What? He didn't know. Hoofbeats cut him off. Coming from the road, fast and hard. Multiple riders. Ayanna stood, turned to face the sound. Her body gone tight, ready to run. Caleb stood beside her. Hand moved to the Winchester by the door. 3 riders crested the rise, reined in at his property line. Moonlight caught their faces. The same 3 men from the desert. The ones who'd had Ayanna bound and bleeding. They'd found her. Day 24. Morning. Caleb saddled the bay, tightened the cinch, checked the rifle boot, slid the Winchester in. Supplies were running low. Flour almost gone. Coffee down to the last half-pound. Salt barrel nearly empty. Had to go to town. Ayanna stood on the porch, watching him work. He tied the saddlebag, turned to her. Got to ride in for supplies. She nodded. He swung into the saddle, gathered the reins, started to turn the horse, stopped, looked back at her, standing there in the blue calico dress, the one that had been Margaret's. Wasn't Margaret's anymore. Was hers now. "You want to come along?" "No." He nodded, started to ride, got 10 feet, reined in again, turned the horse full around, looked at her straight. "Get on the horse, Ayanna." She stepped back. "I said no." "I heard you. I'm saying you ain't a secret I'm keeping hid. You're coming with me." Her hands twisted in her apron. "They will not want me there. Don't much care what they want." Long pause, looked at the road, at him, at the house behind her. He reached down, hand extended. "Come on." She crossed the porch, took his hand. He pulled her up behind the saddle. She settled, her arms wrapped around his waist. Light at first. "Careful. Hold on proper," he said. She tightened her grip. He nudged the bay. They rode. Town appeared over the rise. Small, dusty, adobe and wood. False-fronted buildings lined the main street. Wagon ruts cut deep in the dirt. Ayanna's arms went tighter around his ribs. He felt it. The way her breathing changed. Shallow now. Quick. "You all right?" "Yes." They rode down the main street. Heads turned. A woman on the boardwalk saw them. Pulled her child close, whispered something, pointed. The child stared, and 2 men outside the saloon stopped talking, watched them pass. One spat tobacco juice. Brown stream hit the dirt near the horse's hooves. Caleb kept the bay to a steady walk. Not hurrying, not hiding. General store ahead. He reined in, dismounted, helped Ayanna down. Her feet hit the dirt. She stood close to him, not touching, but near. They climbed the steps. Boards creaked under their weight. The door. Bell jangled overhead when he pushed it open. Bright brass. Clean sound. Inside. The shopkeeper looked up. Middle-aged man, balding, vest stretched tight over his belly. His face went hard when he saw Ayanna. Stone. Morning, Henderson. Caleb crossed to the counter. Ayanna stayed by the door. Head down, hands folded. Need flour, 25 pounds, coffee, 2 pounds, salt. Henderson didn't move, just looked past Caleb to where Ayanna stood. You bringing Apache into my store now? Caleb's jaw tightened. She's with me. Don't care who she's with. We don't serve her kind. Behind Caleb. The door opened, and dumb women came in. I saw Ayanna. One gasped, clutched her shawl. Martha, come on. We can't be in here with... They left. Door banged, dumb eyes shut. Bell jangled harsh. Caleb pulled coins from his pocket. Silver, dropped them on the counter, hard. They rang out loud in the quiet store. Flour, coffee, salt. I'm paying good money. Henderson crossed his arms. Told you. We don't... I heard you. Caleb's voice went flat. Cold. And I'm telling you, I'm a customer. Been buying from you 10 years. You're a businessman. I got money. You got goods. We can do this simple or we can do it hard. Your choice. Henderson's face went red. His mouth worked. No words came. Caleb waited. Didn't move, didn't blink. Finally, Henderson moved, grabbed a canvas sack from the shelf, filled it with flour from the barrel, weighed it, 25 pounds, slapped it on the counter, added coffee, Arbuckle's green beans in a paper sack, salt in another packet. Caleb counted out coins, exact amount, pushed them across. Then he saw the fabric bolts on the far shelf. Indigo calico. Same pattern as the dress Ayanna wore. The dress was wearing thin, armpits faded, hem fraying. He crossed to the fabric, pulled down a bolt, brought it to the counter. This too. 5 yards. Henderson's eyes went narrow. That's quality cloth. 50 cents a yard. Historical prices would be lower, but Henderson was gouging. Caleb knew it. Fine, cut it. Henderson cut the fabric, measured, folded it, wrapped it in brown paper, tied it with string. $2.50. Caleb counted out coins, then counted out 2 more dollars. 5 total. Set them on the counter in neat stacks. That's for the fabric. And for you to remember your manners next time a paying customer walks through that door. Don't matter what color she is. Henderson's face went purple. His mouth opened. Caleb gathered the supplies, tucked the fabric under his arm, turned to Ayanna. Let's go. They walked out, bell jangling behind them. On the boardwalk, Caleb loaded the supplies into the saddlebag, secured the fabric. His hands were shaking. He curled them into fists, made them stop. Ayanna stood beside the horse, silent, still. Like if she moved, she might shatter. Behind them. Henderson's voice carried through the open door. Don't come back. Stone you or your squaw. Caleb's hand moved to the Winchester. Stopped. He forced his fingers to relax. Tied the saddlebag closed. Turned. 3 men stepped off the boardwalk across the street, moved toward them. Caleb recognized them. Same men from the desert. Same men who'd had Ayanna bound. Different now. Sober. Bolder. Grins on their faces. They crossed the street. Boots loud on the hard dirt. stopped 10 feet away, the leader's scarred cheek. Tobacco-stained teeth hooked his thumbs in his belt. Well now, Stone, that Apache woman belongs to Commissioner Blake, territorial property. Caleb's hand stayed near the Winchester. Not touching, just near. She belongs to herself. Blake's got papers say different. Don't see no papers. The man's grin widened. You interfering with official business. Stone. That's a hanging offense. I'm standing in the street. That's all I'm doing. The younger one stepped forward, swaying slightly. Still drunk from last night, probably. His hand dropped to the pistol on his hip. We could take her right now. Ain't nothing you could do to stop us. Caleb shifted, put himself between them and Ayanna, didn't draw, didn't move for the rifle, just stood there, solid, not moving. You could try. Silence. Tight. Stretched like wire about to snap. Boots on wood. Heavy. Fast. That's enough. The sheriff. Badge glinting silver in the sun. Tin star. Dented at one corner. He stepped between them. Hand on his own pistol. Not drawn, but ready. Gentlemen, you got business here? The leader spat. Brown Stream. Missed the sheriff's boot by inches. Blake wants his property back. Blake can take it up with the territorial judge when he comes through next month. The sheriff looked at Ayanna. Miss, what's your name? She lifted her chin. Voice steady. Ayanna. Miss Ayanna here is free to go where she pleases. That includes Stone's ranch. He looked at the three men. Now move along. Before I remember, you boys been drinking in the street. That's against town ordinance. The leader's jaw worked. Chewing something. Anger, maybe. Pride. He looked at Caleb. At Ayanna. Back to Caleb. This ain't over. Stone? Figured it wasn't. The three men turned, walked away slow, looking back over their shoulders, hands near their guns. The sheriff waited till they rounded the corner, looked at Caleb. You're making enemies. Had them already? Blake won't let this go. He's got pull, money, friends in Tucson. Let him come. The sheriff's mouth twitched, almost a smile. You're a stubborn man, Stone. Just a man who don't like bullies. The sheriff nodded, tipped his hat to Ayanna. Ma'am, to Caleb, watch yourself, and watch her. Always do. The sheriff walked away, boots thudding on the boardwalk. Caleb stood there, heart hammering against his ribs, hands still shaking no matter how hard he tried to stop them. Ayanna touched his arm, light, just her fingertips. We should go. Yeah. He helped her onto the horse. This time he sat behind. Let her have the saddle. His arms around her to reach the reins, could feel her trembling. Small shakes running through her back where it pressed against his chest. They rode out of town, slow, every eye following, every whisper carrying. At the edge of town, someone spat. Hit the ground near the horse. Caleb didn't look back. Just kept riding. Open road, desert stretching. No one behind them yet. But Caleb kept checking, looking over his shoulder, waiting for hoofbeats, for dust, for the thing he knew was coming. Ayanna's hands gripped the saddle horn, knuckles white. You should not have stood up for me. Wasn't a choice. They will come after you now, after us. Let them. She turned her head, slight, looking at him from the corner of her eye. Why? He tightened his grip on the reins, felt her weight against him. Warm, real, alive. Because it's right. Because you ain't property. Because I'm tired of watching good people get treated like dirt by men with money and badges and nothing resembling decency. She turned back, but her hands relaxed on the horn. Just a little. They rode in silence. Sun climbing, heat building, getting on Caleb's back. Between his shoulders, under his collar, his hands still shook. Not from fear, from something else. The effort it had taken to stand there, calm, to not draw, to not fight, to just be a wall between her and them. Her hand moved, covered his where it held the reins, just for a moment. Squeezed once. He swallowed hard, throat tight. "Thank you," she said. Quiet, almost lost in the wind. "Don't thank me yet, for what you did. Standing there, not running, wouldn't run from men like that. I know." Pause. "That is why I thank you." They crested the rise. The ranch appeared below, small, lonely, but home as they descended. Caleb saw them. Fresh hoofprints in the dirt, leading up to the house, circling the barn, the well, the garden. 5 horses, maybe 6, deep prints, heavy riders. They'd been here, while he and Ayanna were in town, looking, searching, marking the place. His blood went cold. Ayanna saw them too. Her body went rigid against his. "They know where we live now," she whispered. Caleb reined in, stared at the tracks, then at the house, the barn, all the places someone could hide and wait. "Yeah," he said. "They do." And somewhere in the distance, so faint, he almost missed it, the sound of hoofbeats, fading east. But they'd be back. The question was when. Day 25, evening, the sun dropping behind the western ridge. Caleb walked the perimeter, eyes on the ground, hoofprints everywhere. Fresh, deep, 5 horses, maybe 6. They'd circled the house while he was in town. The barn, stopped at the well, looked in the window, boot prints on the porch boards. Someone had stood right there, peered through the glass into the kitchen where Ayanna cooked, where they ate meals together, where she'd smiled at him 2 nights ago. His stomach turned. Bile rose. He swallowed it down, went back inside. Ayanna sat at the table, hands folded, still wearing the calico dress, his coat overtop the one he'd given her that cool night. She looked up when he entered. "How many? 5? Could be 6. She nodded. No surprise, just acceptance. Caleb crossed to the wall, took down the Winchester, checked the chamber, 7 rounds. He grabbed the box of cartridges from the shelf, loaded it full, 14 rounds now, or worked the lever, smooth, ready. Set it by the front window, went to the bedroom, pulled his father's rifle from under the bed, Henry repeater, brass receiver, 44 rimfire, older than the Winchester, but it worked. He'd kept it clean, oiled, just in case. Just in case had arrived. He loaded it, 15 rounds, lever action, set it by the back window, came back out, positioned ammunition on the windowsills, boxes of cartridges. Within reach if they had to reload fast. If. He stopped. Looked at her. "They're coming back. Tonight, probably, when it's dark, and they figures we're sleeping. I know. When they come, if they come, I want you running. Out the back. Head for the canyon. There's caves up there, in the rocks. You can hide." She stood, crossed to him, stopped 3 feet away. No, Ayanna, I will not run again. His hands curled into fists. This ain't your feat. It became my fight when you stood between me and them in town. When you told that shopkeeper I was worth defending, when you... Her voice cracked. She steadied it. When you chose me over your safety, that's different. How? He gestured helplessly at the rifles. The ammunition. The house that suddenly felt too small, too exposed, and like a box with them trapped inside. They'll burn us out, or worse. Then we fight. I can't... His voice broke. He tried again. I can't watch you die. She reached out, touched his face, palm warm against his stubbled jaw. Then do not watch alone. Stand beside me instead. His throat closed, couldn't speak, just nodded. She dropped her hand, turned to the window, looked out at the fading light. When do they come? Midnight, maybe after, want us asleep, defenseless. Then we prepare. They ate cold venison, didn't risk lighting the stove, didn't want smoke signals. Caleb poured water into tin cups. They drank. Neither tasted it. He trimmed the coal oil lamp, turned the wick low, just enough light to see by. Not enough to make silhouettes in the windows. Ayanna checked the door, latched it, dropped the wooden bar across. The one Caleb had installed years ago when outlaws had been working this territory. Never needed it till now. She moved to the back door. Same thing. Latched, barred. They were locked in. Or the men were locked out, depending. Caleb sat by the front window, Winchester across his lap. Ayanna took the rocking chair, pulled it to the side out of the direct line if bullets came through the glass. Close enough to see, not close enough to get hit. They waited. 9 o'clock. Nothing. 10. Still quiet. 11. Caleb's hands started shaking. He pressed them flat on his thighs, willed them still. Didn't work. Every sound made him jump. Wind rattling shutters, windmill squeaking, horse snorting in the barn, coyotes yipping out in the dark. Everything sounded like hoofbeats. 11:30. He stood, paced, 3 steps to the wall, 3 steps back, Winchester in his hands, safety off, finger near the trigger, but not on it. Not yet. Ayanna rose, crossed to him, put her hand on his arm. Sit. You will need strength. He sat. She went to the kitchen, came back with a rag, dipped it in the water pitcher, wrung it out, handed it to him. Wipe your face. He did. Cool water on hot skin, wet he hadn't noticed. The rag came away dirty, gray with dust and salt and fear. She took it back, folded it, set it on the table, sat beside him on the floor, not in the chair, on the boards, back against the wall, close enough their shoulders touched. They waited like that, side by side and in the dark, listening to their own breathing. Midnight, hoofbeats, real this time, yacht imagination, that wind, horses, Yato. Coming fast from the east, Caleb stood. Ayanna scrambled up. He moved to the window, peered through the gap in the shutter. 5 riders, torches in their hands, fire bright against the black, flames whipping in the wind. They reined in 50 yards out, formed a line. The leader's scarred cheek, visible even at this distance, held his torch high, shouted, "Stone, send out the Apache, last warning." Caleb's finger found the trigger. He called back through the closed window, voice steadier than he felt. She's free. To leave or stay, her choice, not yours. Silence. The horses shifted, snorted, pawed ground. The torches flickered, sparked. Then it will burn you out, Stone. Send her now, or we light this place up. Caleb didn't answer, just watched, counted. 5 men, 5 torches, 10 guns at least, maybe more. He glanced at Ayanna. She stood frozen by the back window, face pale in the dim lamplight, eyes wide. He turned back, waited. One man dismounted, walked forward 20 paces, stopped, pulled his arm back, threw the torch. It spun through the air, end over end, sparks trailing like a comet. Hit the ground 15 feet from the porch. Dry grass there, should have caught immediately. Didn't. The torch landed, hissed, smoked. Flame sputtered, died to embers. The grass was damp. 3 days ago, there'd been a freak storm, unexpected rain for September. The ground had soaked it up like a blessing. Caleb had thanked God for it then, thanked him again now. Another man threw his torch, landed closer, 10 feet from the porch. Same result, smoke, hiss, no flame, the grass wouldn't catch. Caleb's breath came out shaky, relief flooding through him so hard his knees went weak. The leader cursed, loud enough to carry. He spurred his horse forward, drew his pistol, fired. Bullet smacked adobe, as 6 inches from the window. Plaster dust exploded, rained down on Caleb's head. He ducked, came back up. Another shot, this one high, punched through the wooden shutter. Splinters flew. One caught Caleb's forearm, sharp, hot. He felt blood but didn't look. He raised the Winchester, sighted down the barrel, aimed low, fired. Dirt geysered 3 feet in front of the leader's horse. The animal reared, nearly threw him. He fought for control, stayed in the saddle, pulled the horse around, glared at the house. You'll pay for this. Stone. Another rider fired. Bullets shattered the window. Glass exploded inward. Caleb threw his arm up. Felt something cut his cheek. Warm wetness. Blood running down to his jaw. He fired again. Warning shot. Into the dirt between 2 horses. They spooked. Backed up. The men pulled back. Retreated to 50 yards. Sat their horses. Torches burning. Arguing amongst themselves. Caleb couldn't hear the words. Just the tone. Angry. Uncertain. They hadn't expected him to shoot back. Hadn't expected resistance. Minutes crawled by. 5. 10. The men didn't move. Just sat there in the dark. Watching. Planning. Caleb's arms ached. Holding the rifle ready. Shoulder tight. Neck cramped. Every muscle screaming. Behind him. A sound. He turned. Ayanna stood at the other window, the Henry repeater in her hands. She worked the lever. Checked the chamber. Smooth motion, like she'd done it 100 times before. Caleb's heart stopped. Ayanna. She turned. Looked at him. Face set. Jaw tight. No fear in her eyes, no. Just decision. You said it was my choice. Yeah, but then I choose this. And she moved to the broken window beside him. Positioned herself. Rifle to shoulder. Barrel resting on the sill. Pointed at the men outside. They stood there, side by side. 2 windows. 2 rifles. Weighing outside. The leader shouted one more time. Last chance. Caleb didn't answer. Neither did Ayanna. The men waited. 1 minute, 2, 3. Then they turned their horses. Rode east. Slow at first, then faster. Torches bobbing in the dark, disappearing into nothing. Gone. Caleb stood there, rifle still raised, waiting for the trick, the ambush, the return. Nothing. Just silence. Wind, stars, and he lowered the Winchester, and hands immediately shaking so hard he nearly dropped it. Set it against the wall. Careful. His whole body trembled, and teeth chattering, cold sweat soaking through his shirt, and down his spine, under his arms. Turned. Ayanna still stood at her window, rifle ready, watching the dark. "They're gone," he said, voice cracking. She didn't move. "Are they? For now." She lowered the Henry, slow, like her arms weighed too much, set it down against the wall. She had turned to face him. They stood there, 10 feet apart, lamplight flickering between them, smoke from the torches drifting in through the broken window. Caleb's legs gave out. He slid down the wall, sat hard on the floor, dropped his head into his hands. His whole body shook. Couldn't stop it. Couldn't control it. Just sat there shaking like he had fever, like he was dying. All the fear he'd pushed down, all the terror he'd ignored, flooding in now that it was over, drowning him. Couldn't breathe right. Gasping. Chest too tight. Vision blurring. Footsteps. Soft on the boards. Ayanna knelt beside him. Put her hand on his shoulder. "Caleb." He couldn't look at her. Couldn't lift his head. Shame burning through him hotter than any fear. Falling apart when he should be strong. When it was over. When he should be standing guard in case they came back. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Stop." She sat beside him, pulled his head to her shoulder, one hand in his hair, the other on his back. He shook against her. Couldn't help it. Couldn't stop. Reaction pouring out. Fear. Relief. Exhaustion. Everything. She held him, didn't speak, just held him there on the floor in the wreckage of his house with blood on his face and splinters in his arm and his pride in pieces around his boots. After a long time, the shaking slowed, stopped. He lifted his head, wiped his face, wet. He'd been crying. Didn't remember starting. "I'm sorry," he said again. "For what?" "For." He gestured at himself. The mess he was. This. She cupped his face, made him look at her. "You stood when they came. You did not run. That is courage. I was scared." "Good." Her thumb traced his cheekbone, wiped blood away. "Fear means you understand what you could lose." He looked at her, really looked. Saw the tremor in her hand still, the tightness around her eyes, the way she held herself like if she let go, she'd shatter. "You were scared too." "Yes." "But you picked up that rifle." "Yes." "Why?" Her hands dropped to his, gripped them tight. "Because you gave me freedom. Every day, every moment. You never took from me, never forced." She paused. "And I choose to give it back. To you. To be free to want you here. To fight beside you. To stay." Iron broke in his chest. Cracked wide open. He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her, held on like she was the only solid thing left in the world. She held him back. Just as tight, her face against his neck, her breath warm on his skin. They sat there, tangled together on the floor, surrounded by rifles and spent brass and broken glass, the smell of gunpowder and smoke and fear, Outside, the sky began to lighten. Dawn, pink and gold on the horizon. The night was over. They'd survived. But as Caleb held Ayanna in the growing light, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, he knew with cold certainty this wasn't finished. The men would come back, angrier, more prepared, with more riders, more guns, more fire, and next time, wet grass might not save them. Next time, they might not be so lucky. The question wasn't if, the question was when, and would they be ready? Sun rose fully. Pink lights spread across the desert, turned the adobe walls gold, made the broken glass sparkle like diamonds in the dirt. Caleb stood, legs stiff, every muscle ached. He'd slept sitting against that wall. 3 hours, maybe, not real sleep. Just the body shutting down because it had to. He looked around, plastered dust on the floor, bullet hole in the wall, shutter hanging crooked, broken window, spent brass casings scattered like seeds. His house, his home, shot to pieces. Outside, torch marks scarred the earth, black circles where fire had tried and failed to catch. The wet grass had saved them. God's mercy in the form of unexpected rain. He crossed to the door, unbarred it, stepped out. Cool morning air, clean, like the night's violence had never happened. But the evidence remained. Boot prints, hoof prints, burned grass, the smell of smoke still hanging. Behind him, footsteps. Ayanna came out. She'd changed clothes. Wore the other shirt, now his old work shirt. Too big on her, sleeves rolled up, hair pulled back. She looked at the damage, said nothing, just stood there beside him. "I'll fix the shutter," Caleb said, voice rough from smoke and shouting. "Patch the wall, replace the glass when I can get to town again." "When will that be?" "Don't know. Not soon, not till—" He didn't finish. Till what? Till it was safe. It would never be safe. Not really. She nodded, turned, went back inside. He checked the perimeter again, walked the property line, looking for anything left behind, found one torch, half burned, pitch-soaked rag on a stick. He picked it up, threw it in the burn pile. The bay gelding was fine, nervous from the noise, but unhurt. Caleb fed him hay, fresh water, stroked his neck. "We made it through," he told the horse. "Barely, but we did." The gelding ate. Didn't care about philosophy. Just wanted breakfast. Caleb envied him that. Inside, Ayanna had coffee going. The stove lit. Pot heating, smell of Arbuckle's beans roasting in the skillet. She poured water, set it to boil. Caleb sat at the table, realized his arm was bleeding, the cut from the splinter. 4 inches long, not deep, but ugly. His cheek, too. Glass had caught him there. Blood dried on his jaw. Ayanna saw it. Went to the basin, wet a rag, brought it back, knelt beside his chair. "Let me see." He rolled up his sleeve. The cut wept, red edges, dirty, splinters of wood still embedded. She cleaned it, gentle. The rag came away bloody. She rinsed it, cleaned again, pulled the splinters out one by one with her fingernails. He hissed when she got the deep ones. "Sorry. Keep going." She found the blue tin, lard salve, spread it over the cut, cool, stinging, tore a strip from a flour sack, wrapped his arm, tied it, not too tight. "There. Thank you." She stood, wet the rag again, touched his face, wiped blood from his jaw, his cheek. The cut there was shallow, already clotting. She cleaned it anyway. Her hand lingered. Just a moment. Fingers on his face. Then she pulled away. Went back to the coffee. Poured 2 cups. Set one in front of him. Sat across from him with hers. They drank. Black. Bitter. Burned his tongue. He didn't care. Just needed something hot. Something real. Outside. A sound. Hoofbeats. Ginkle rider. Caleb's hand moved to the Winchester. Still by the door, where he'd left it, Ayanna stood. Backed toward the wall, the rider came into view. Slowed. Stopped at the property line. Sheriff. Badge catching morning sun. Caleb relaxed. Barely. Set down his cup. Went outside. Ayanna stayed in the doorway, watching. The sheriff dismounted, tied his horse to the porch rail, climbed the steps, took off his hat, looked at the bullet hole, the broken shutter, the torch marks in the dirt. They came last night. Not a question. Statement. Yeah. You hurt? Just scratched up. Nothing serious. The sheriff's eyes moved past him, to Ayanna in the doorway. Ma'am? You all right? She nodded. He looked back at Caleb. Mind if I sit? Go ahead. And they sat on the porch. The sheriff in Caleb's rocking chair, Caleb on the bench. Ayanna came out, stood by the rail, listening. Got news, the sheriff said. Those men, the ones who came after you, I arrested them. Caleb's head snapped up. How? Caught them drunk in town this morning, bragging about how they were gonna burn you out, how Stone wouldn't be so high and mighty once his ranch was ashes. The sheriff smiled, grim. Arrested all 5 for disturbing the peace. Unlawful assembly, threatening a citizen. They're in my jail now. For how long? Long as I can hold them. They'll go before the judge when he comes through. Probably get 30 days, maybe more if I can make the charges stick. Caleb's hands curled into fists. 30 days. That was something. Not much, but something. What about Blake? Commissioner Blake is under investigation. Turns out he's been using his office for personal gain, extortion, bribery, taking money to look the other way when certain folks break certain laws. The sheriff leaned back, chair creaking. Won't be commissioner much longer. Might be in prison himself before this is over. Caleb breathed out, long and slow, weight lifting he hadn't known he'd been carrying. And her... He gestured to Ayanna. What's her status? The sheriff looked at her. Far as I'm concerned, Miss Ayanna, you're a free citizen of this territory. No warrants, no claims against you. You can go where you please. Ayanna lifted her chin. I please to stay here. The sheriff nodded, almost smiled. Figured you might. He stood, put his hat back on, looked at Caleb. You're a good man. Stone. Don't see many like you anymore. Just doing what's right. That's what makes you rare. He tipped his hat to Ayanna. Ma'am, mounted his horse, rode off, dust rising behind him. Caleb sat there, watching him go, trying to believe it was real, that the threat was over, that they were safe. But safe felt like a word that didn't mean what it used to. He stood, turned to Ayanna. She leaned against the porch rail, arms crossed, looking out at the desert. Those men are locked up, he said. Blake's finished. You're free, and really free now. No one coming after you. No one with any legal claim. She nodded. He stepped closer. So, I need to ask you something. She turned, looked at him. Do you want to leave? I can take you anywhere. The reservation, California. Anywhere you want to go. Set you up with supplies, money, whatever you need to start over somewhere safe. She studied his face. Do you want me to leave? No. The word came out too fast, too hard. But that don't matter. This is about what you want, what's best for you. And you think what is best for me is to leave. He gestured at the house, the damage, the evidence of violence. Look around. Men came here with torches and guns. Because of me. Because I stood up for you. That ain't safe. That ain't... Where would I go? Caleb. He opened his mouth, closed it. I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere but here. She crossed to him. Stopped close. I have no people left. My brother is gone. My mother, my grandmother, all dead or taken. She touched the porch rail. This place is hard. The land is hard. The people are harder. But it is honest. And so are you. I'm just... You are a good man. I have known many men. Most take... They see something they want, and they take it. You are not like them. She pat. You gave me freedom. Every day, every moment. Do you know how rare that is? His throat went tight. Couldn't speak. I am not staying because I have nowhere else. I am staying because I want to be here, with you. He reached for her. Stopped. Hands hovering, not sure if he was allowed, if she wanted. She took his hands, pulled them to her waist, stepped closer. I choose you, Caleb Stone, not because I owe you, not because I must, because I want to. Something broke in him, some wall he'd built 3 years ago when Margaret died, when the baby died, when he decided being alone was safer than loving and losing again. It crumbled. He pulled her close, held her tight, face buried in her hair. She smelled like smoke and sweat and coffee and life. She held him back, arms around his ribs, head against his chest. They stood there on the porch in the morning light, two people who'd been broken finding each other in the ruins, building something new from the pieces. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Yes, you do. I'm scared of losing you. Then do not lose me. She pulled back, looked up at him. Keep me. He kissed her, clumsy, desperate, like a man drowning, reaching for air. She kissed him back, gentle, sure, like she'd been waiting for this. Like she'd chosen this moment as much as she'd chosen him when they broke apart, both breathing hard. He rested his forehead against hers. Ayanna. Yes, marry me. She went still, pulled back enough to see his face. Whatever, marry me. Be my wife. Not because you have to, not because there's nowhere else, but because... He stopped, started again. Because I love you, and I want you here, always. If you'll have me. Her eyes filled. Tears spilled over and down her cheeks. Yes, yes, she laughed, crying and laughing at the same time. Yes, I will marry you. He kissed her again, deeper now, slower, taking his time, memorizing the taste of her, the feel of her in his arms, the way she fit against him like she'd been made for this spot. When they finally stopped, the sun was high, full morning, the day stretching ahead. He looked at her, really looked, saw the woman she was, Strong, brave, beautiful. His. "I never thought I'd be happy again," he said. She touched his face. "I never thought I would be home." "You are. This is home. For both of us." She smiled, leaned her head on his shoulder. They stood there, holding each other. On the porch of a damaged house in the middle of nowhere, with enemies in jail, and a future uncertain and everything still fragile and new. But they had this moment, this morning, this choice, to stay, to build, to love, together. And that was enough. 3 months later, the garden bloomed. Beans climbing poles, squash spreading across the earth. Green and alive and growing. Caleb had fixed the fence, replaced the posts, strung new wire. The barn stood straight. He'd shored up the lean with new beams. The windmill turned smooth. He'd finally greased it. Ayanna worked beside him in the dirt, planting more seeds, onions, carrots, things that would grow through winter. She wore a dress she'd made herself from the fabric he'd bought in town. Blue calico. Simple stitching. Practical. Beautiful. She caught him watching. Raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Nothing. Just, you look good in that dress." She smiled. "You have said them this four times already." Saying it again. She shook her head. Went back to planting. He watched her a moment longer. Then went back to his own row. That evening, hooves on the road, they both looked up, hands moving toward the rifles that weren't there, then relaxed. The sheriff, riding slow, not urgent. He reined in, dismounted, tipped his hat just to Ayanna. "Ma'am, Stone, Sheriff? Got news. Thought you'd want to hear." He pulled a paper from his pocket. "Commissioner Blake, convicted, sentenced to 6 years territorial prison. The men who came after you, 3 got 6 months, 2 got a year, all of them gone." Caleb breathed out. Slow. "It's over. It's over." Ayanna's hand found Caleb's. Squeezed. The sheriff smiled. Genuine this time. "You two planning a wedding? Spring," Caleb said. "When the wildflowers bloom. I'll be there, if you'll have me." "Be honored." The sheriff mounted, started to ride off, stopped, looked back. "For what it's worth, Stone, you did good. Standing up like you did. Not many men would have. Just did what was right. That's what I mean." He touched his hat brim, rode off. Caleb and Ayanna stood there, hands clasped, watching the dust settle. "It is truly over," she said. "Yeah, I think it is." She leaned against him. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They looked out at their land, their home, the life they were building from nothing. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me, for not walking past that day in the desert, for—" Her voice caught. "For choosing me." He kissed the top of her head. "Best choice I ever made." They stood there until the stars came out, until the coyotes started singing, until the night wrapped around them gentle and the future stretched ahead, full of possibility and hope. 2 rocking chairs on the porch, 2 harmonicas, 2 voices becoming one. Home. Finally, home. But as Caleb looked east toward the road, toward town, toward the world beyond their small piece of desert, he knew peace was fragile, hard-won, precious, real, and worth fighting for every single day. 6 weeks later, early November, morning, Caleb knelt in the garden, hands in the dirt, cold now. First frost had come 2 nights ago. But the plants survived, beans still climbing, squash leaves spreading green across the furrows. He pressed seeds into the earth, onions, small and hard in his palm, covered them, patted the soil, moved down the row. Ayanna worked beside him, carrots this time, making holes with her finger, 1 seed each, spacing them even. Her hands moved steady. Sure, the scars on her wrists had faded. Pink lines now, barely visible. They worked without talking. Just the sounds of dirt and breathing and birds overhead, sparrows chattering, jays squawking at something in the mesquite. The garden was twice the size it had been. They'd expanded it together, dug new furrows, hauled water, planted hope in the form of seeds that might grow or might not. But they planted anyway. By noon, the work was done. Caleb stood, brushed dirt from his knees, looked at what they'd made. Straight rows, even spacing. Good work. Ayanna stood beside him, surveyed the garden with him. It will grow, she said, if we're lucky. We have been lucky. She looked at him. More than lucky. He took her hand. Dirt under both their fingernails, calluses on their palms, hands that worked, hands that built. Yeah, we have. The corral fence held. 3 new posts Caleb had set deep, wire strung tight, no more coyotes digging under. The barn stood straight. He'd shored up the lean with fresh lumber from town. Cost him most of what he'd saved. Worth it. The windmill turned smooth, no more squeaking. He'd climbed up there with the grease can, nearly fell twice, but he'd done it. The gears ran quiet now, just the whisper of blades cutting air. Inside the barn, a new rocking chair waited. Pine, hand-built, sanded smooth, no splinters. He'd worked on it evenings while Ayanna cooked, while she mended his shirts, while she sang songs in Apache he was learning to recognize by sound, if not by meaning. He lifted the chair, carried it out, set it on the porch. Beside his, 2 chairs now, same wood, same design, a side by side. Ayanna came out, saw it, stopped, set down the dish towel she'd been holding, crossed to the chair, ran her hand over the armrest, the curved back, the rockers. You made this, yeah. For me, yeah. She sat, rocked once, twice, the motion smooth, perfect balance. She looked up at him, nothing in her eyes he couldn't name. Gratitude, maybe, or more than that. It is beautiful. His throat went tight. It's just a chair. No. She rocked again. It is a promise. He didn't ask what she meant. He knew. A promise that she wasn't leaving, that he wasn't alone, that they were building something here that would last longer than torches and threats and men with guns. Afternoon, he hauled water to the new plantings. The galvanized can heavy in his hands, poured it slow into each furrow, watched it soak in. Dark earth drinking. Ayanna worked the fence line, checking wire, tightening where it had loosened, wearing his leather gloves. Too big on her hands, but they protected from the barbs. They met in the middle, him with the empty can, her with the pliers. All tight, he asked. All tight. Good. They walked back to the house together, not touching, just close, the way married people walk, like they'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. Except they weren't married. Not yet, but they would be. Come spring, when the wildflowers bloomed, and the desert stopped being brown and turned briefly beautiful. Evening, 2 weeks later, Caleb sat on the porch, whittling cedar stick half carved into a spoon for Ayanna. To replace the one she'd broken yesterday trying to stir cornmeal mush that had gone too thick, she sat beside him in her rocking chair, mending a shirt, his shirt, torn at the shoulder from catching on barbed wire. Her needle moved steady. Small stitches, even. Everything she did was careful, precise, like she'd learned young that wasted effort meant death. Hoofbeats on the road. They both looked up. Caleb's hand moved toward the Winchester, still kept by the door, just in case, but he recognized the rider before his fingers touched wood. Sheriff? Riding easy, not urgent. Caleb set down the cedar stick, stood. Ayanna set down the mending, stood beside him. The sheriff reined in, dismounted, climbed the steps, removed his hat. Stone. Miss Ayanna. Sheriff. The man looked tired, lines around his eyes deeper than last time. Gray in his stubble that hadn't been there before. He gestured to Caleb's rocking chair. May I go ahead? The sheriff sat. Caleb leaned against the porch rail. Ayanna stood beside him, hand resting light on his arm. Got news, the sheriff said. Thought you'd want to hear. Caleb waited. Those men, the ones who came after you with torches, they're being transferred. Territorial prison in Yuma. 3 of them got 6 months. 2 got a year for attempted arson. Caleb's shoulders dropped, weightlifting. All of them, all 5. Judge didn't go easy. Said attempted murder of a citizen. That's how he classified it. Deserves hard time. And Blake, Commissioner Blake. The sheriff smiled. Grim satisfaction. Found guilty of extortion, bribery, abuse of office, sentenced to 6 years. He's already on his way to Yuma. Won't be bothering anyone for a long time. Ayanna's hand tightened on Caleb's arm. He covered it with his own. It's over then, Caleb said. It's over. The sheriff looked at Ayanna. Miss Ayanna, far as the territorial government is concerned, you're a free citizen, no warrants, no claims. No one has any legal right to take you anywhere. You understand? Lifted her chin. I understand. You can go where you please, do what you please. I am staying here. The sheriff nodded, almost smiled. Figured you might say that. Ayanna looked at Caleb, then back to the sheriff. I am Caleb Stone's wife, or I will be. Come spring. The sheriff's eyebrows rose. He looked at Caleb. That right? Yes, sir. Well, the sheriff stood, put his hat back on. Congratulations to you both. Be honored to attend the wedding if you'll have me. Be honored to have you, Caleb said. The sheriff shook his hand, tipped his hat to Ayanna. Ma'am, and you take care of this stubborn fool? I will. And Stone, you take care of her. Plan to. The sheriff mounted, paused, looked down at them, standing there on the porch. Man and woman, future husband and wife, building a life from ashes and hope. You did good. Stone, both of you, don't see that kind of courage much anymore. Just did what needed doing. That's what makes it courage. He touched his hat brim, rode off. Caleb and Ayanna watched him go, dust rising, settling, the sound of hoofbeats fading to nothing. She'd turned to him. It is truly over. Yeah? We are safe as anyone ever is. She stepped closer, put her arms around his waist, rested her head against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her shoulders, held her there in the fading light. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not walking past that day, for seeing me, for choosing me when it would have been easier to turn away." He kissed the top of her head. "Best choice I ever made." They stood there until the stars came out, until the coyotes started their evening song, until the night wrapped around them gentle and familiar. That evening, full dark. They sat in the rocking chair, side by side, close enough their hands could touch if they wanted. They did. Caleb played the harmonica. Slow melody, hymn his mother used to sing, Amazing Grace, the notes clean in the desert air. Ayanna sang, Apache words first, then English, her voice soft, clear, blending with the harmonica like they'd practiced this, like they'd been doing it for years. Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. He played. She sang. The two voices, one metal, one human, moving together, creating something neither could make alone. When the song ended, they sat in silence. Just the crickets, the wind, the turning of the world. Caleb set down the harmonica, pulled his knife from his pocket, stood, crossed to the porch post and the one by the door, thick pine, weathered gray. He carved careful, letters deep enough to last. C.S. plus I. Ayanna came to stand beside him, watched him carve. When he finished, she traced the letters with her finger. "Forever," she asked. "Forever." She leaned against him. He put his arm around her shoulders. They stood there, looking at the letters. The promise carved in wood. "Spring," she said. "When the wildflowers bloom." "Yeah, and you want a big wedding." "Lots of folks." She shook her head. "Small. Just us, and the sheriff. Maybe the few neighbors who showed kindness." "Sounds perfect." They went back to the rocking chairs, sat, rocked. The motion synchronized now. Same rhythm, I-1 heartbeat. Caleb pulled out the harmonica, handed it to her. "Your turn." She took it, put it to her lips, blew one note. Clear, high, beautiful. He pulled out the second harmonica, the one he'd bought in town 3 weeks ago. Silver, smaller than his higher key. He played the same note. Lower, deeper. She played another. He answered, back and forth, building a melody simple, sweet, theirs. When they stopped, she lowered the harmonica, looked at it in her palm. "You bought this for me?" "Yeah. Thought maybe we could play together." She looked at him, eyes bright in the starlight. "I would like that." "Yeah." "Yes." They played again. Fumbling at first, finding the notes, learning how their sounds fit together. But slowly, gradually, a melody emerged. Not perfect, not practiced, but real. When they finally stopped, the moon had risen, fat and silver, lighting the desert like day. Ayanna set down her harmonica, stood, crossed to him, sat on his lap in the rocking chair. He wrapped his arms around her. She rested her head against his shoulder. They rocked, slow, gentle, the chair creaking soft beneath them. "I never thought I would be happy again," he said, voice quiet, almost lost in the night sounds. "I never thought I would be home." He tightened his arms around her. "You are. This is home. For both of us." She lifted her head, looked at him. Yes, it is. He kissed her, soft, slow, like they had all the time in the world. Because they did. When they broke apart, she settled back against his chest. His hand found hers, their fingers laced together. They rocked, the chair moving beneath them, the stars wheeling overhead, the desert breathing around them. Two people who'd been broken, who'd been alone, who'd found each other in the ruins and built something new from the pieces. Not a rescue, not a debt, just a choice, made every day, every moment, to stay, to build, to love, together. The night deepened, the coyotes sang, the windmill turned, and on the porch of a small adobe house in the middle of nowhere, two rocking chairs moved in rhythm, two harmonicas waiting for morning, two voices becoming one. Home, finally, truly, home. There's something quiet that settles in after a story like this one. Not heavy exactly, just present, like the feeling you get sitting on a porch after a long day's work, watching the sun go down, knowing tomorrow will come whether you're ready or not. That kind of tender. Many of us have carried things we thought we'd carry alone. Grief that doesn't announce itself. Loneliness that looks like independence from the outside. The fear that if we let someone close, we'll lose them the way we've lost others. And maybe some of us have also known what it feels like when someone really sees us and doesn't turn away, doesn't try to fix what's broken, just stands there, stays. Caleb and Ayana's story doesn't tie up neat with a bow. There are still hard days ahead for them. Still uncertainty about what comes next. Still work to be done on that ranch and in their hearts. But that's all right. Not everything needs to be resolved to be real. Not everything needs an ending to be true. Some things are allowed to just rest there. Unfinished, ongoing, alive. Thank you for sitting with this story, for letting it unfold slow, for staying until the rocking chairs stopped moving and the stars came out over the desert. That means more than I can say.